Welcome to the Making Weddings Work podcast with myself, Stuart, and my good friend Toby. Now, we're both independent wedding videographers with about 10 years experience each in the industry. So our goal is to interview, talk to, chat with the most successful brands in the industry and find out how they've been successful in growing and scaling their business and achieving the success that they've got today. We're delighted to welcome to the show Krishanthi from Cakes by Krishanthi, which is a beautiful luxury bespoke cake makers in London, headed up by Krishanthi herself. She's been working in the wedding industry for about 10 years now, and through her show-stopping cakes, she's really in that top tier of the industry. So we thought it'd be great to find out about how she runs things as a solopreneur, sticking to an artisan approach, yet still stays at the top of the game. Welcome, Krishanthi.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Cool, no problem. Would you say that's like a fair introduction? Is that how you would describe yourself?
Yes, yes, very fair.
Okay, cool. So I guess let's start from the start then. How did you end up deciding that you wanted to create your own company, have your own thing?
I never had an idea that I would first of all have my own business, run my own business, or even to imagine having a cake company. My life journeys, I was born in Sri Lanka. I came over here when I was 13, and I had the sort of, the formal education. And then I decided to go to Germany when I was 20. And just to sort of, see and experience other culture. I initially wanted to go there for 3 months and then come back after, spending 3 months and learning the little bit of German I could learn maybe in that 3 months. And I just happened to bump into my now husband, and I decided to stay there and do my degree in sociology and social psychology, which I completed. And then I came back to England when I was 30. So I spent 10 years of my time in Germany, and in the time that I was there, I sort of looked at German baking, Austrian baking. I loved their sort of, baking style, the continental baking style. And they've also got a very beautiful sort of baking culture. The families and friends meet up every weekend, which is called Kaffeekuchen. They meet up with coffee and cake and discuss politics and family life. It's very much sort of a friendly sort of atmosphere, and we all sort of did that regularly. And it's very common in Germany, this Sunday Kaffeekuchen culture, and that's how I got into baking. But also my mother used to bake a lot when I was little in Sri Lanka, and I always sort of had this sort of curiosity for icing and how to hand pipe things. And I suppose I didn't really sort of show any interest till a lot later. After finishing my degree, came back to England. I went into investment banking, worked there for a couple of years, and then I decided it was time for me to have children. And when I had my son, I wanted to do something for myself, but not go out to work though. So I found cake decorating as the new thing, and I enrolled at my local college and got interested in sugar flowers then. Baking came. I didn't really sort of follow a sort of a formal baking training, but sugar flowers I did, and royal icing, and I took it from there really, and I started the business in 2010. First of all, did a lot of networking, not necessarily in the wedding industry, but general networking, business networking.
No, that's a good starting story. That is. So you've obviously had a bit more of a formal background then with the banking stuff and that. When you started, did you have a business plan set up, or was it just you did maybe a cake for a friend and it kind of snowballed from there organically into a business, or was it you sat down and wrote a a sort of
No,
growth
I didn't
plan?
consciously approach this as a business. I wanted to explore. I'm the sort of person, I need a lot of time to explore things before I dive into it, because when I dive into things, I want to do them properly and 100% behind it. I'm a very sort of, dedicated and committed person, and very loyal as well, even to myself, that, if I do something, then I want to do it properly. So I didn't, have a plan as such. I didn't even think that, it would be a cake business. I explored various ideas. I started, networking in sort of local groups, meeting up for coffees and networking, or even, Athena, that's a ladies networking group, which they meet up every week or every fortnight, and discussing with various people. Also, people from the Chamber of Commerce, Business Chamber of Commerce, would come as well to attend these meetings, and I would have a chat with them and exchange ideas, which really helped me to sort of find my own sort of footing there. And decided, actually, I used to make a little bit of birthday cakes, but nothing special, not sort of wedding cakes. As I was sort of progressing with networking, 6 months later down the line, I decided, actually, it was a bigger challenge for me to get into the wedding industry and explore that idea. And so I started slowly. Organically grew my business. I didn't have a sort of a written business plan that I stringently followed. It's not like that, no.
So was there a point where you realised it had turned into a legitimate business? I mean, was it building a website or something like that made you realise?
Yes. In 2011, I decided, actually, I want to make wedding cakes, but if I do make wedding cakes, or if anything that I do, I want to be one of the best, basically. I am quite driven, as I said before. So I explored the ideas of PR and marketing, how to get my brand awareness out there, and marketing strategies, website. So I sort of met with various people. And then I met a company, PR company, that sort of offered me a package, a retainer package monthly, that I sort of committed myself for 2.5 years. That you can only do if you've got a bigger budget, basically. It's a lot of money, and I wouldn't recommend anyone to sort of, dive into PR and marketing immediately. Take time, explore other sort of channels. If you've got the time, do it yourself before, employing someone like a PR company, because it comes with a big price.
Do you remember how much roughly you were paying for that?
Yes,
for somebody that might be interested?
I roughly paid to start off with £700 a month, and then it went up to £895 a month.
Okay.
But
And what do you think they were mainly what were
they were
the key things they were doing?
They were mainly it's a wedding industry PR company, a very small PR company. They've now moved on to do other things, but I felt that they got me into magazines, but not the sort of magazines that I wanted to get into. I wanted to do some magazine work to get exposure, but as always, PR companies, they say something and they deliver something else, which was quite disappointing often, I found. And often later on, after a year or so, I realised, actually, these are the sort of things that I could do myself. But I still carried on because of sort of, not knowing how to move forward. The fear was instilled that, if I leave PR marketing, that, my branding will die out, fade away. And things like my PR company told me that my work is not that good quality, that people would really sort of
Really?
Wow. That
Okay.
it's it's instilling fear, basically. So you have to be very cautious about how you work with PR and marketing companies, because they are there also in their interest to make money, basically, out of you. So be a bit more aware and conscious of that. And also, there's a lot of scams, and there's a lot of sort of bloggers who say that they'll promote your business, be on their suppliers list, and you can you have to pay £50 or £100 a month. But often I find that they don't work. They don't bring me any sort of enquiries. Because also I have consciously made the decision to become the artisan luxury brand. Often, the directories are for, budget-friendly couples who are looking for different sort of, type of wedding cakes.
Yeah. So where do you think there are places you've realised over time that were better to like direct your efforts? Like, was it going to venues directly, or was it different magazines?
Yes, magazines helped me a lot. After I left the PR and marketing company, I reached out to magazines myself, like Brides Magazine and You and Your Wedding, Grace Ormonde, and so on, Style Me Pretty. And they all were very happy to feature me, which got me exposure worldwide. And they are a great platform, I think, if you really want your brand to be known worldwide rather than just UK. Publications help. Unfortunately, I find that printed media is sort of dying out now, and it's mostly everything is online. So Style Me Pretty helped me. I'm a little black book member of Style Me Pretty, and a lot of my clients are not UK based. They are abroad. They live abroad and come to the UK to get married. So platforms like that help a lot.
And you work at some really nice venues, like particularly in London and stuff. Did you approach them, or how did that work? Was it just that you happened to work there? Okay.
Yes, it's hard work approaching venues and wedding planners. I often the last couple of years I just rely on venues and wedding planners. It takes years for you to build that relationship, because the relationship is based not just on quality of your work but also trust and loyalty. I have worked really hard to develop that relationship with venues. So there are venues that recommend me, and there are venues that they sort of select you when it's convenient, and then chuck you out when you don't want to pay some money towards
Yeah, we've all had that a little bit.
So when you were approaching the magazines, what were you actually doing? Were you sending them emails, or were you participating in styled shoots and submitting images and stuff?
I would send them an email. I would follow that up with a cake, deliver a cake to the magazine editor, journalist that I work with. If there's a photo shoot, I would turn up with the cakes. I would work with the stylist first, and then I would turn up with the cake. I will personally deliver the cakes myself, and have a little chat with them, and introduce myself if I don't know them personally. And it's just sort of developed. We had some great friendship there. I developed some good friends there from the magazine world. And we still, some of the magazines don't exist, but I still meet up with the journalists for a coffee and chat. And it's been a good sort of working relationship now, developing into good personal friendship.
It's good to hear. So it's definitely like about, you have to be brave in the first instance, to make sure you're there present, making an effort to talk to them, but it actually takes longer to develop a meaningful, lasting relationship. Is that?
That's right. It's a big commitment, time-wise, money-wise as well, because you're creating a lot of sort of showcase cakes for them, and you have to drop them off. You can get someone else to drop it off, but you're not showing your loyalty or your dedication. They want to see you. You're the face behind that brand, and that's helped me a lot, because I find that PR companies, they can promote you, but a lot of the magazines, venues, they want to see you're the face behind that brand. That helps a lot.
And do you have a similar relationship with clients? Do you have that same sort of face-to-face thing? Do you spend a lot of time with each client developing the idea and that sort of thing?
My client base is not big, and I choose that way, but I develop a very personal sort of, relationship with them. The moment I receive that email, I will, be in charge with, taking over, and I liaise with them. I meet with them, consultation, face-to-face consultation. Any email correspondence, I deal with that. And clients like that, and clients want that, because especially in weddings, it's something very personal. And it's their special day. They want someone they can trust as well. It's not just about the cake tasting and the cake design. It's also about whether they can trust you as a person.
And when you have overseas, when you have overseas clients, how do you do it with them? Do you talk online? Is it like a Skype type thing?
We start off online. We might have a Skype call, but they often come here to visit the venue. They also have menu tasting. So I will, I'm quite flexible. I don't, say that I don't have time. I make the time to meet them according to their schedule, because they're only here some people are here only for 3 days, some people are here for 5 days, because they've got work as well. So I make sure that, I make the time to meet them, even in the evenings if it has to be some, there are exceptions that I meet them in the evenings. So it's not, 9 to 5. I say, my opening hours are like that. It's not. I'm very flexible.
And do you have you decided over the years on a certain amount of weddings you want to do a year? Have you come up with a number that sort of suits the way you like to work? Or
Yes, the last few years I didn't want to do more than 25 weddings maximum. That is, I never do 2 weddings a week because I'm the person who is creating the sugar flowers, and I'm the person who is making the cake, baking the cakes myself. Everything I make them from scratch. I never buy them ready-made. So everything is baked on site before the wedding. Nothing's frozen. So I want to make sure that I deliver quality. And most of all, also, I'm happy with it, what I deliver. Yes. So it's from A to Z. I'm involved in that.
So that's obviously really a sort of time-intensive process on your sort of personal time. How do you find the balance between switching off, between work, or do you just always kind of have work at work is always the priority for you? How do you kind of prioritise personal evenings and stuff?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I must say, the work does sort of, take up a lot of my time, large chunk of my time. And that's why I waited for my children to start primary school before I started the business, because I knew that it'll take up a lot of my time.
Yeah.
And my mother as well, the creativity, she helps me a lot with the creativity, bouncing off ideas and so on, because it can be very isolating as well, lonely. I do have, I wasn't so disciplined with timing. I used to work, night and day for my business, but I've got to the stage that I've decided that I will commit certain hours a day for my work, unless I have some clients who their weddings are coming up, and then I won't, I will work night and day. But quieter months, like in sort of January, February, I will do other things, working on projects. I am thinking of I have started offering sugar flower classes. So offering workshops rather than just working on weddings, because weddings are stressful, time consuming. It's hard work. It's not for faint-hearted. It's stressful. Even the delivery, it's very stressful, delivering cakes. You never can predict the traffic. There are potholes everywhere. It is a stressful job. And some clients or people sort of have this misconception that it's all sort of beautiful sweet things that I'm doing, must be very pretty and harmonious, the work that I do, but it's not like baking a little birthday cake for your child at home. It's very different. So from April to October, I'm super busy. I know that, and I expect that. So I think because I expect it, it's fine. But there are days that I'm exhausted.
So we mentioned like your mum's there to bounce ideas off. Your husband's obviously very supportive. Is there anything else you have in the background, like automated processes to help with any of the admin or the just the sort of logistics that goes along with the running the business side of things rather than the creative part of the cake process?
I have an accountant who I've had him for 5 years now, who's very helpful, advises me on things. He's been very supportive, and then I have a web designer, a developer who looks after my website. So these are all sort of very helpful things because as an artisan, I can't do everything. The longer I'm doing creative things, the sort of, I'm realizing the technical part becomes very difficult for me now. I used to be, computer savvy, but now I'm not. I find it quite sort of, nerve-wracking trying to sort of, work on sort of technical side. So that helps me a lot. And also with figures, I've, even though I worked in a bank, I worked in compliance, not with figures.
Because being artisan and it being very much a sort of bespoke designs, how does that work with pricing? Is it do you price every job differently? Do you have to talk about that further down the line when you've come up with a sort of design and you know how expensive it's going to cost? How do you go about that?
Well, there are couples who the first email they send is about pricing. There are couples who the first email they send is about my design and talk nice things, tell me nice things about my design and really appreciate the craftsmanship and the artistry involved. So there are different types of clients, and for those who are looking for a ballpark figure, I often have a sort of a standard price, which I say a 3-tier cake to start. A 3-tier cake to serve 100 starts from 975. That's a sort of rough pricing. It depends on the sort of intricacy of the work design, and then just to give them a rough idea basically. And often I can't really say how much it will cost until we have that face-to-face consultation.
Yeah.
Then I have a better idea of what they're expecting, and until I've also sketched the design. I can't give a exact pricing till I've actually sketched the design and looked at the work involved.
So you'd say an ideal client is someone that understands that this is sort of a relationship where you're going to design something and there's a lot of time involved in you doing that. It's not just I'll make you a cake and there you go. You after people that understand the artistic part, more than anything.
Yes, I think people really have to sort of, distinguish between cake makers and cake designers. The cake makers, they often I find, I wanted to stand away from that, make my position absolutely clear that, I'm not the average cake maker. I want to sort of, be the artisan designer, cake designer. You can work with me, I'll work with you. Often I find that, the ideal client is that someone who's is open to ideas, but also, I have to fit into their sort of, expectations, their criteria. It works both ways. It's not just one way. And I have really sort of amazing clients on myself. I've always said it. I've been fortunate enough to find the right clients to, fit me as a person, because I'm also very ethical, very loyal as well. So it has to work both ways.
And just to interrupt the conversation for a moment, to give a shout out to all the places where you can follow our journey on Making Weddings Work. So you can reach out to us on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube and on Spotify. So please get subscribing, get telling your friends, pass the podcast around. If you've got someone else that in the wedding industry that could benefit from the topics that we're covering, topics that we're going to talk about, the guests that we're going to have on, please let them know about us. Please spread that love and let other people become more successful with their wedding business. Now, let's jump straight back in to the conversation. So you're obviously going to meet these clients in person a lot of the time. How do you find, what's your sort of conversion rate percentage on, do you find that once you meet them, you've established that relationship, and then you get quite a lot of those will go on to place the booking, or are some of them still walking away at that point?
Often I find the conversion rate is quite very high with me after the consultation. I would say 95% I get the commission. But I don't, I can sort of, filter out who's going to become my clients and who's not after the initial email. So I know that before I meet, we've already built a relationship through emails. And, we roughly can guess our personalities as well, what sort of, clients they are going to be. And they can guess my sort of, personality as well through the emails.
So what is your tone on the emails? Are you just very much
very polite?
You being you.
I don't like pushy sales strategy. I've never believed in that, and coming from a sociology background, I just don't. I'm very mindful. I personally don't like the pushy salesman either, so I don't want to push that onto my clients.
I wanted to develop a little bit. You were mentioning you sort of have strong ethics and you try and apply that to your business. How does that manifest itself in your business? What are the things that are important to you from a sort of ethical standpoint?
So first of all, the ingredients I use, I make sure they're organic, fair trade ingredients.
Okay.
Fair trade because I want to help the farmers, especially in the third world countries, whether it's cocoa or tea plantations. And secondly, I'm ethical in the sense that I'm not a pushy salesperson. I don't like to push sales. I am mindful of people's budget and how people like to spend their money and so what. I don't want to push. I don't follow up on emails either, which people business coaches have said. I haven't had business coaching, but I've heard from business coaches that you should always follow up on emails to find out. But it's not my strategy. I leave people to come back to me if they are interested. They will always come back, and it's my attitude as well. I think I sort of transfer my attitude into my business as well, because I don't expect anyone to push their sales onto me and also follow up on emails. I don't like that strategy. I suppose I'm very old school in that sense. And also with regard to designs, I am very clear on that from the very beginning when clients email me designs of other cake designers asking me, roughly how much it would cost and, this sort of design. So I immediately respond by saying, I don't copy anyone else's design, but I'm very happy to design something from scratch, or, give me some elements of your stationery or wedding ideas. Then, after consultation, I will design something for you based on that.
So is there a community where you talk to each other about your sort of designs and that sort of thing? Does everyone know what each other's doing to make sure you don't tread on each other's toes, that sort of thing?
When I have a commission, I always tell them, leave it with me. Don't panic about delivery times, and I will liaise with this florist if there's a florist involved that needs to work. I mean, a lot of my cake actually all my cakes have sugar flowers or hand painted details. I don't really have fresh flowers on my cakes because that's not my style. Basically, what I'm selling, my unique selling points are actually not just the organic fair trade ingredients, the quality ingredients, but also my sugar flowers. The magazines have always come back to me because of the quality of my sugar flowers. So that's my unique selling point, my sugar flowers. And so if people want, a cake with fresh flowers, I always say that, I'm not the right person for them. I make it clear to them, what my design styles are. Why would I be suitable for their requirements? Not, if they want a naked cake or, something buttercream, I'm not the person.
And how do you, have you put things in place on things like social media and your website to sort of drive home that message? There are ways you found that have been effective to get people to immediately understand where you come from.
I think my website is definitely clear on that. It showcases only fondant cakes and hand-painted cakes and sugar flowers. And as for my social media platforms, Instagram, it definitely, it's all about sugar flowers. It's very floral. My Pinterest as well. I'm not that active on Twitter since it's become very political. It's a political platform than anything else. And Facebook, I'm a bit sort of reluctant. I don't know.
I think most people we've heard from, it's been Instagram is the key one, and Pinterest
Yes.
maybe a little bit as well. Yeah, partly. I think just do clients use the Pinterest to give you an idea of the sort of thing
A lot of
they're looking
my,
for?
interestingly, a lot of my clients, some of them find me in Instagram, but a lot of the clients come to me with their Pinterest board. They plan their weddings on Pinterest, finding ideas and so what. It can work, Pinterest, but sometimes I find, Pinterest is just overloaded with so many ideas that people are a bit confused.
Would you say, like, how would you split up your sort of percentage of inquiries across those different channels? Do you know how much is just organic traffic to the website? How much is coming through Instagram or something?
I don't, from Instagram, I know, because even though I'm reluctant to, I get a lot of private messages, but whether it's from cake people wanting, tips from me, or clients, wanting to find out about pricing, and I will answer to them, but often I say, email me, and if that becomes an email, then I know that it is going to lead to a consultation. But if it's just a message, it doesn't, turn into a consultation.
I think that's a good point, because it's quite easy for people to just send a message like that. I get the same thing with Instagram. I normally say to people, if you can send me like a formal inquiry, and if they don't bother, they weren't really that,
Yes,
serious.
I find, you can't put your business into a message, the consultation, or even what you're trying to sell into a message, private message on Instagram, social media. It doesn't work that way, because there's cake flavors to consider, consultations, how I work and so what. You can't put all of that into a little message. So when I start off with the pricing, because they're often asking about pricing on Instagram, I know that often it's not going to.
Yeah, if the only question is what is price, it's probably not going to be a.
Yes.
Do you use any automated stuff for emails, or do you just literally use like an email account?
I literally write every email myself. I don't get thousands of emails every week. It's manageable. Those are the things that I struggle with in the when it's really the wedding season, because I like to reply within 24 hours. I don't leave emails lying around for too long. So I will go back home and answer the emails and send it off in the evening or in the mornings usually. It's been okay, I would say.
And do you mentioned you're on a couple of directories and things. Do you do any advertising? Do you do any actually paid advertising, things like Google or Instagram?
I have done, yes, I have done a few in the past, but I have decided to stay clear of those things, because I think that's more suitable for a cake maker who's looking for any sale, really, who's willing to, take as many commissions as possible, just to sort of, have a turnover, but not for someone like me.
Where do you think the majority of your sort of clients come from? Is it from recommendations? Is it from venues? Or
recommendations, a lot of recommendations and venues. I've got the Lanesborough, who, fabulous to work with. The Ritz, I worked with Clifton House. There are Zion Park House. There are, a few. I don't, Eno Park as well. Amazing wedding venue. But I don't, I don't want to be a supplier at every wedding venue. Only a selected few I've decided, because I like to, as I mentioned before, I like to maintain a sort of a good working relationship with everyone. So it's only a handful.
So you're very sort of, you very much think about where you want to be seen and that sort of thing. Is that very important?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I don't want to, be everywhere. I want to be in sort of in the selected few places that sort of fit my branding, but also I fit into their branding. And I work with a very few very good wedding planners, like Sarah Haywood, Jenna Hewitt Weddings. There are a few that I love working with, and I prefer to work with wedding planners because the information is clearer. If I have any queries, the wedding planners are on the ball, answering the questions. It's because they know how to work with suppliers. It's all very clear from the moment that we start working together. It's straightforward, I would say.
So when you work with the planner, does everything go through the planner to the client, or do you have direct contact with the client? How does that?
Hardly. I work with the planner. Everything is the communication is through the planner. So everything is transparent, really. The planner will chase up on the invoices, make sure that it's all paid promptly and upfront, no delays. It's just really very straightforward with planners.
I guess keeping that circle smaller really lets you, it really strengthens that relationship sort of tenfold, doesn't it? Because you could have...
Yes, I think the planners prefer that as well, because they're seeing me as a person. I'm the sort of the face behind that brand, and I'm the person who's managing everything, and they know that they can leave that with me, and they have seen my work the last often I find the planners keep an eye on me for a few years before they actually approach me. But now they all sort of have. Once you get associated with certain planners, other planners start coming as well.
Would you say they've always approached you? Has that always been the relationship? You've waited for them to approach
Often.
you? Okay.
Often. I mean, there are a few planners I approached them a couple of years ago, but it's taken them a couple of years to sort of trust me and come to me. They've given me few small orders to test me, I think, to see my quality of the work, because often I find that Photoshop helps, doesn't it?
Yeah, okay.
I see a lot of cakes online, that's been photoshopped a lot, sugar work and so what. But when you see it with your naked eyes, it's very different. So, I think wedding planners are very cautious, and I understand their jobs. So it's a good way to test suppliers by giving them smaller commissions first before giving them bigger commissions.
You touched briefly on things like style shoots. Is that something have you ever organised your own sort of thing?
Yes, I love style shoots, and because I don't do that many anymore. I used to do a lot, but now I found that I only want to work with a selected few like-minded people, and I've found my like-minded people in my wedding community. We are extremely protective of each other and support each other, whether it's the wedding planner like Tiger Lily Weds, she's amazing, Penny, and some florists that I love working with. I'm obsessed about flowers, so I almost worship florists. I sometimes wish I was a florist rather than a cake designer, but I know it's a hard job being a florist. And photographers, I work with a few, and so we've over the years we've built a relationship, and we always go back to the same people. Because we trust and respect each other's work.
So that you obviously did a lot of networking before the business kind of got started. Did you transition to doing more sort of wedding industry networking now? How do you find your...
I did a little bit, but not much, networking in the wedding industry, because I did go to networking in the wedding industry, but like some industries, like the fashion industry and so what, it's very cliquey. You would often sort of, have this impression that you are never going to sort of, get any work so you have to sort of, I suppose you have to attend all of these networking groups to make up your own mind what fits you and what doesn't. It's actually up to the individual. I didn't feel I was the right kind of person for networking in that style, in that manner, because I'm quite a reserved person. And I'm quite sort of, particular about things as well. I don't like to talk about a lot of things and then not deliver, basically. So you have to be careful when you network that you don't overpromise and then not deliver, basically. And there are lots of people who want to sort of I found that initially in the early stages when I was doing PR and marketing, people wanted to collaborate with me and work with me because they wanted to benefit from my network, from my PR and marketing, because they would get exposure basically that way.
Yeah.
But I suppose that's the reality of business, running a business. There are ups and downs, and you have to really be mindful, I think, analyze and be mindful. And also, make up your mind as to what you want, what your branding is all about, and what sort of clients you want to attract. You have to sort of define that yourself. No one else is going to do that for you.
And do you find that means you very much wanted to control sort of like your branding and logos and all that? Was that something you wanted creative sort of control over, or did you bring other people in to that?
No, I decided that on myself. I'm very sort of, as I said, I'm not sort of driven by, other marketing and PR strategies. I don't necessarily follow all these sort of, corporate things for branding. Cakes by Krishanthi, I explored that idea for years before I had my sort of concerns about Krishanthi, because people often can't pronounce my name in the UK, but in Germany it's not a problem. So my husband, being German, he said, have Krishanthi because that's your genuine name. That's something, it's your name, that's your brand, and you're selling something, your artistry. So have your name on that, in that branding. So I thought about it carefully, and I sort of said, yeah, okay, let's do that, And Krishanthi actually means inner peace. And
oh, is it? Oh, that's
so
really nice. No, I think that personal touch is really important. I think if people know it's you and you're the one. It's something I always point out to clients, that I film everything I do and edit everything I do. I think people like if you've got that creative sort of lock on everything, because they want you, they're buying into you.
Because you're not outsourcing things, and that, I think people want to feel comfortable about that. A lot of the firms that employ other people to do things and so on, they're not very transparent. And if you're an artisan, individual behind this business, they know that you're going to do the job yourself, and you're accountable to all of that.
No, that's it. And so, do you have anyone else that works with you? You've mentioned your mother a bit. Does she?
My mother occasionally works with me, but it's often me. But when I go to the studio, my mother is there often, and I discuss my design ideas with her, and especially color palettes. I sometimes struggle with colors. My cakes are very colorful. That's one thing that a lot of other cake makers used to mention years ago when I first started. Oh my God, your cakes are so colorful. I'm not quite sure it's the wedding thing, but I stuck with it. I think if you know clearly what your USPs are, and you have your own unique style, it will pay off long term. Not immediately, but long term.
Yeah, I did a talk thing recently about style to people, and the main thing I was trying to say to people was, you need to know that from the beginning, because then you're not going to be influenced by other things. So I was going to ask you about that, like, do you look at other work by other cake makers and other designs and ever think, oh, that's quite interesting, or that's quite interesting? Or are you very much driven by your own idea and you think,
I don't look at other people's cake designs on social media. Sometimes, on Pinterest it comes up. Who I really admire, it's not necessarily, her work is completely different to mine, but who I really admire is Sylvia Weinstock. She's a legend, a cake legend. I love anything sugar flowers, anyway, sugar florals. There are a few cake, not cake, but they just specialise in sugar flowers. There are lots of Eastern European ladies who make amazing sugar flowers that I completely, admire and respect. But I try not to follow anyone particular. I want to have my own style, my freedom of designing things.
No, I think that's really important. I think that definitely works if people see you've got your strong way of doing things. Do you think living in different countries and stuff, did that help with building that style? Do you think it meant you were quite unique in the UK when you started?
Definitely. I think my ethical standards that comes from Germany, having studied in Germany, and also how I approach business as well. It's very German, my style, I would say. But I think, it helps me because I've lived in 3 different countries and I also speak 3 different languages. I think it helps me with when I because my clients are also international. When I meet them, I have this, sort of cultural understanding, I think. I don't come across as arrogant at all. I'm not at all arrogant. I'm very sort of, down to earth, polite and friendly. I think politeness comes from my Asian background more. And the quirkiness is the British style, I would say. So yeah, I think it helps. Or all of that, I use it to my advantage.
Yeah.
So a lot of my clients, I would say, they are Americans, Russians, Saudis, and a lot of Japanese and Chinese, Hong Kong Chinese couples. And also flavour-wise, that matches their taste buds, I think. The cakes that I make, I try to sort of, accommodate the sort of the cultural palettes, different cultural palettes.
Oh, right. So is that something you've learned over time, like what suits different?
Yeah.
Okay.
And also in Germany, I mean, you get a lot of Middle Eastern and Turkish communities there. I learned a lot about sort of Middle Eastern and Turkish cuisine in Germany, so I'm quite mindful of that.
So our Instagram handle is nice and easy. It's just instagram.com/MakingWeddingsWork, all one word. The biggest thing we're pushing is our Facebook community, where we want to grow, we want to have discussions outside of the podcast and as a result of the podcast. So maybe we have a guest on, we don't ask a question. We want you to be able to put that question forward and we'll go back to the guest and try and get answers for that, just to really create a thorough process and let everyone get the exact information that they want to help them build a better, stronger wedding business together. Our Facebook community group is also really easy to find. If you just search Making Weddings Work on Facebook, you'll get directed over there. When you request to join, there'll be 3 short answers that pop up just to make sure that you are a wedding supplier and that you will get value from the group once you submit them. Myself and Toby will then let you into the group, into the community, and you can post away anything you like. You can see the discussions that are going on there, you can see further information, and if you want to get something free from us right away, you can head on over to our actual website, which is makingweddingswork.co.uk, and you can download our free Get Paid What You're Worth pricing guide. That's totally free. You just enter your email and then we'll send it straight out to you. And that guide, basically, it's a shortened version of everything that I've talked about when I've spoke at wedding industry events and things like that. When we do consulting one-to-one, it's a topic that we touch on there. So it's just condensed down into a nice PDF for you to just take bite-sized chunks from, bite-sized notes from, and then you can implement those strategies right away and you can get higher paying clients just by changing these simple, quick things to do with your pricing strategy. Now, let's jump straight back into the pod with today's guest and finish our conversation. So one thing that we often hear wedding suppliers say is that they don't really have a pension, they haven't really thought that far ahead, but we've been talking off camera there and you do. So do you want to just tell people maybe the kind of product that you have and how that works, just on a broad scale for somebody who is aware of that they know they need a pension, but where do you even start to find that for yourself?
I think that's really important as a self-employed, that you have some money put aside for the future. I had a financial advisor 5 years ago who came and advised me on what needs to be put on place. Before that, I was sort of wasn't even thinking about it. It didn't even come to my mind. So he offered, in-depth sort of advice as to, how I should go about securing my future financially, sort of pension fund or life plan, life insurance and so what. I think that's really important as a self-employed to look into that and put those in place for you. You can't depend on the government for pension. I don't know, moving forward, I don't know whether there will be a pension plan offered by the government in future. So,
like, what sort of percentage and stuff do you put in that? Do you put a lot
so
in that?
I for my pension plan, I only put £100 a month. I have got a life insurance, and I've got some stocks and shares that I invest in for any sort of future things that I need.
Yeah, I think the life insurance is obviously for anybody with children. Life insurance is massively important.
Yes,
so it's good to hear you've got that. And
a life insurance, and also a will.
Yeah,
It's something that I've been thinking about for years and years, but never got around to doing it, because you just think it's, you can do it any time sort of thing. But, when you do it, you realise, actually, my God, you really have to do it. It's so important.
So I guess looking to the future and stuff then, what are your plan? Have you got a plan as such, or is it very much you're just going to continue down this road and take advantage of things that just happen to come along and just continue to, do what you're doing and approach it with your same principled way of?
I'm hoping I don't strictly follow a business plan. Every year I have a sort of a vague business plan, but it's not something that I sort of follow strictly. So earlier this year, I decided that ideally I would like to work on 12 weddings per year, not more than that, but also branch out on celebrations, big birthdays, which I did last year and I really enjoyed, because the creativity for birthday cakes is completely different to wedding cakes. You can be quite flamboyant, and the approach is completely different as well for birthday cakes. But also I want to do workshops for teenagers from less privileged backgrounds. So I'm trying to get hold of councils and schools to work with me, so that I can go to schools, after schools, and maybe help teenagers who are sort of lost in this world, haven't got an idea as to what they want to do. In a way, sort of like what my mother did, art therapy through sugar flowers, trying to sort of instill some confidence and find their way to discover themselves, basically. Because I think, sometimes teenagers can get lost and get a bit sort of, lose their orientation, and especially if they don't have a role model or someone to, support them. So that is my idea. Moving on sort of, in a couple of years' time, I'm hoping that I'll be able to, offer the workshops for these sort of children, teenagers. So it's not something that, where I can make money, but I'm quite happy with that, as long as I can do, something good in this society. If I can help, a few teenagers find their, way in life, that would be, that would make me really happy, I think.
So that's like, you really do have the kind. I think everybody watching this, or anybody who's even just listening, will straight away sort of, you've got a personality that you can definitely warm to, and you can see your sort of your ethical standpoint and how genuine you are. I think it really comes across like well on this call and on the camera. So I think that just kind of sums up what an approach that I think I've going to take away from this. That you're to go that, just have that genuine love for what you do and want to see yourself succeed, others around you succeed, and just bring everyone up together and do a thorough, honest, proper job.
I've learned a lot from this one. If people want to find you or find out more from you, where's the best places to look for you?
You can Google me on Cakes by Krishanthi. I've got a website, I've got social media accounts, Pinterest, Instagram. Follow me on Instagram to keep up with what I'm doing. I'm on Style Me Pretty as well, some magazines, blogs.
Perfect.